With the government shutdown deadline a little more than 48 hours away, we want to take a look at how our own members of the House and Senate are lining up on how they will vote.
CBS4 investigator Jim DeFede is here. He's been touching base with all of them, and he joins us now with a breakdown.
All right, so now we know that nearly all of the Democrats are expected to vote against the shutdown, the government without a fix for the Dreamers. So a government shutdown largely falls on how Republicans will vote. With majorities in both the House and the Senate, Republicans do not need a single Democratic vote to keep the government open. So how will local Republicans vote? Yesterday, I spoke to Ileana Ros-Lehtinen.
I am going to vote no on the budget if there's not a permanent legislative fix to Dreamers. There will be people who will criticize me and say, you caused a government shutdown. And I'm saying, look, when you say that something's a priority, then you've got to treat it as a priority. You can't say it's a priority, so let's do everything else except for this. Well, if it's a priority, there is no reason why we cannot have a legislative fix to Dreamers this week. And will it result in a government shutdown if we don't have it? If not enough people vote for the budget? I guess so.
All right, so I also asked her who should get the blame if there is indeed a shutdown.
It's a shame on us, the entire U.S. Congress, the entire U.S. Senate.
What about the president?
The president, too, but it is a legislative fix. So the shame is on us. The responsibility is on us. It's one thing to make a lofty speech about helping Dreamers. Everybody's making them. Put your money where your voting card is.
I also caught up with Senator Marco Rubio yesterday.
Number two, I do not believe you can shut down the government of the United States over DACA. In fact, one of the implications of doing so is the government will no longer be able to process the permits that people are applying for. So it's almost counterproductive. I think we need to fund and keep open the U.S. government, and I think we need to deal with this issue in a way that recognizes that if you're going to deal with DACA in a permanent way, you're going to have permanent changes to the way we enforce immigration laws.
Okay, so now the other two members from South Florida, Carlos Curbelo there on the left, you see him. He obviously has voted and made it very clear that he will vote to shut down the government if there is not a clean Dreamer bill. Mario Diaz-Balart on the right, his staff tells me late today that he will not vote to shut down the government, that he will keep the government open regardless of whether there is a clean bill or not on DACA. Now, let's also now turn to Senator Bill Nelson. This is by far the most interesting in a lot of ways. The Democrat who's running for re-election this year refuses to say one way or the other how he will vote on keeping the government open. He's walking a very fine line here, trying to not to alienate more conservative voters in the state of Florida, but also trying to keep the Democratic base happy. So right now, Bill Nelson will not commit one way or the other on how he'll vote to shut down the government.
Okay, so Jim, we know local lawmakers, Ileana Ros-Lehtinen, Carlos Curbelo, Mario Diaz-Balart, they met with Chief of Staff John Kelly. I think we actually have a picture of that, if we can put that up. You see that was taken today during the meeting on Capitol Hill. And you had spoken with all of them before that meeting. So did this meeting change their minds?
That meeting did not change anyone's mind. Everyone is pretty much, the cast is die for them. Curbelo and Ileana Ros-Lehtinen's office both got back to me and said they are both still committed to demanding a clean bill, a DACA bill, maybe with other provisions in it, but have DACA secured and resolved before they'll vote to extend the government, regardless of the offer about CHIP. Mario Diaz-Balart, same thing. He's voting to keep the government open.
And Jim, there's a lot of anger about this here in this community. People just saw a few days ago a 30-year-old man in Detroit separated from his family, his wife a U.S. citizen, his two children U.S. citizens, and he's sent back to Mexico. So there's anger. There were people on the streets in downtown Miami earlier this evening. How will all this play out politically, you think?
You know, this is one of those moments. You heard Ileana Ros-Lehtinen earlier talk about how, you know, it's a shame on Congress. It'll be a shame on Congress if the government shuts down. Politically speaking, let's talk short term, 2018. This clearly plays to both sides' base. Whether it's good for the country overall is a separate question. But for Democrats, they believe their base demands that they stand up, shut down the government, particularly in light of the president's comments about Haitians and others. For the Republicans, they believe that this is something they have to stand on, keep the government open. As you heard Marco Rubio said, Mario Diaz-Balart said something similar to me, that it's all about protecting the military, keeping the country strong. So this is about their bases. This is not about solving problems.
May come down to the wire on this one, right?
Absolutely. Okay. It's going to be a very close one. There may be a short-term gap, but this fight is still coming along.
All right, Jim, thank you very much.